Welcome back, guys. A bit of a challenge on our hands today. So today we are working on the 911 SC again. If you watched the last episode, you'll have seen this car has a very substantial oil leak. You'll actually see the evidence of that down there. There is a hell of a lot of oil down there and also down there. So the reason this is leaking is due to the oil return tubes. Again, you'll have seen all this explained on the previous episode. If you didn't catch that, it's just a couple of videos down on the channel. Feel free to go and take a watch and start this series from the beginning. Now, the aim of the game today was to get all the heat exchangers off, exhaust, all that kind of stuff, the cold air injectors or the fresh air injectors, to gain access to these tubes, get the tubes out and pop the new tubes in. Now, we've bought the telescopic or collapsible tubes for this car, which makes life easier, basically, because we don't have to remove the engine to get these tubes out. Basically, you can crush the old tubes, twist them off, put your new tubes in and just pull them apart, snap them into place, and that's that job pretty much done. Now, the issue I have now got is I wanted to get this job completely all buttoned up and done over the weekend. Now, I've just opened the box for the parts for the tubes, and lo and behold, I have one tube. Now, you'll see there, I ordered 4. So, thanks very much for that, eBay seller. That's now put me way back on this job, because I wanted to get this done and boxed off over the bank holiday weekend, and now I can't because someone's decided to send me 1 part instead of 4. Not good at all. But anyway, all we can do now is basically prepare the car for this job, start to remove all the stuff we need to remove, clean up all the holes, have a bit of a clean up around the engine, and basically get this ready to accept the new tubes when they do finally arrive. So let's get down the pit, let's have a look. I'm going to start to spray some of the stuff with some penetrating fluid. Some of the bolts down there do look quite crusty, so I'm hoping they do come out without snapping. We may have to snap some, we may have to chop some, but let's get into it and let's see where we get to. But just before we get started, guys, I'd just like to address something. I noticed a couple of comments on the last video, one in particular saying that it's hard to watch and I don't have a clue what I'm doing. Now, you are probably quite right in this instance. I don't particularly know what I'm doing on these cars. And if you will have watched the full episode of the last video, I did explain quite thoroughly that I don't particularly know what I'm doing on these cars. Now, that doesn't mean to say that I don't know what I'm doing in general. If you've watched some of the other videos, you will probably see that we do a good job on the jobs we do, and we do things properly and to the best of our abilities. I'm not here proclaiming to be a professional restorer. This is simply a hobby for me, and I enjoy working on these cars and I enjoy doing what I do, which for me is the main thing. You've got to enjoy what you're doing with these cars. You've got to enjoy your hobby. So again, this is a complete learning curve for me, guys, and I'm pretty sure to the chap who made that comment, I'm a truck mechanic by trade. If I was to give you a scan your truck and ask you to put a gearbox, a clutch and an AdBlue pump or an ABS module on that vehicle, program it, fit it and make it all work, you probably wouldn't have a clue either. So it's each to their own. Everybody knows stuff that other people don't know. These cars, I know exactly what I'm doing because I've worked on many of these Opel Mantas and other variations of manufacturers and makes and models. However, the Porsche 911, I've never worked on one of these cars, and if you'll have watched the full episode last time, I did actually explain that I didn't particularly know what I was doing on this car because I've never worked on one before. So this is a learning curve for me. So I do apologise if I come across like I don't know what I'm doing, because you're probably right and I probably don't. But if you do watch through some of the other projects we've done, I'm sure you all will agree, we do a nice job and we do know what we're doing with these particular cars. So again, I'm doing what I can on this, learning as I go along, enjoying working on it, and so to me that's the main thing. Right, so we're going to start with dropping the remaining oil out of the oil tank and then out of the engine to get all the oil out of this, just so it minimises any drips and any mess. Once the oil is out, then we'll move into the exhausts and then into the fresh air injectors and start gaining access to these tubes. Blimey, that's tight. Oof. Just checking that there, guys, and that is actually very, very loose. But again, it might have been a cause of a bit of the drip, but definitely the majority of it is coming from up there. You can see it travelling down these tubes onto the bottom of the engine and then tracking forward and dripping off the front of the engine there. But yeah, that's not great. Very, very loose. Right, so with the oil out, we can now move on to the next stage, which is going to be dropping these exhausts or heat exchangers. So we're going to start by removing these Jubilee clips. Get these out of the way, and then we'll move on to the studs up at the front, which do look quite difficult. I'll just take you for a look at those. So some of these studs look quite rusty. They don't look too bad. Some of those up there don't look too bad now. I think we may struggle a little bit with these because they are quite rusty. So we're going to try and get these off without snapping them. And again, these bolts here do look quite rusty as well. So let's see what we can do. I mean, it's not a massive issue if these snap because they're not captivated anyway. It's just a simple nut and bolt right through. So if I do start to struggle with these, to be fair, I'll probably just cut them off anyway and put some new bolts in there. We do have a full new gasket set for this car as well, including all the head gaskets and everything. Pretty much every gasket and seal on this car I do have a replacement part for, but again, we're not going to go into that extreme just yet. I just want to get this car usable for the time being. So that's all three of them out. They was an absolute pain to get out. There's a few choice words accessing those, but they're out. There we go. One exhaust off. Now time to the other side. So unfortunately guys, those ones are not coming out. They are rusted solid and starting to round off, so I'm going to get the grinder and just nip those off. Easier than struggling. So this last bolt is a bit of a pain because I can't actually get into it with the grinder that I've got. So I think I've just about cracked it off, so I'm going to have to get this with a couple of spanners. So I think I might have got lucky with this top bolt, because out of the three, I think that is the only one that isn't rounded off. So let's have a go, see if we can get it out. There it is. As I was saying, that is quite fortunate for us because that is the only one out of three that isn't rounded, and if that did strip, I wouldn't have been able to get in there with a grinder, so I would have been for a little bit of pain there. So that's good news that that one's come out. Did have to chop these two, but they should pop out now. Easy enough. Go. So that's those three out. So now we are left with the same again on this side with those really difficult to access Allen key headed bolts. So that's the next step. Let's get those out, and then this side of the exhaust should drop off, and then we can have a look what sort of access we've got. So now I feel like a bit of an idiot because after a bit of a struggle with this, I've just realised that actually there's holes through the centre of the heat exchangers which actually allow access for an Allen key fitting with an extension bar on. So yeah, live and learn. Oh well. Right, so that was a bit of a struggle. Now, after messing around with Allen keys and stuff, trying to get into these cap head bolts, which are these ones, I actually did realise that there is actually access holes, being those there, where you can actually get an extension bar through to get to the bolts on the inside there. So yeah, bit of an idiot moment there, but we figured it out in the end. Now, unfortunately, as I was taking these out, we've actually got 2 snapped studs on that exhaust, so somehow we need to try and get those studs removed now from the heads. So I'm hoping I can extract them with some stud extractors, or maybe put a couple of nut heads on there and try and pull those out. Now, the next job is to try and get these clean air injectors out. Now, they don't look like they're going to come out very easily at all, and as you can see there, also there is signs of more leaks than just these tubes, as I was explaining earlier. Now, these cars are noted for the head studs snapping, so I'm hoping that that isn't the case on this car, but if it is, it is, and the engine will have to come out at that point. But again, for now, let's try and get these tubes out and done, and then at least we can use the car in the meantime. Right, so I've just tried to remove these air injectors, and they are absolutely seized solid, and I can feel that these are definitely going to snap. Now, I believe you can get a delete kit for these, which I haven't got at the moment, and again, that is something we could come back to, because at some point the engine and box and all the running gear is going to come out of this car, but it probably won't be for at least another 6 months, and I don't want to waste the summer with this car off the road. So I think the only option I've got at this point is to try and get these tubes out and the new ones in, with leaving this stuff in situ. So it looks like it could be doable. It's just whether I've got enough room to expand the collapsible tubes in situ with this in situ even. But you can see there, guys, just how loose these are. I mean, they're just not sealing at all. So let's get these crushed. I'm going to crush these with a pair of pliers and try and take them out rather than cutting them, because obviously cutting creates sparks and dust and all sorts of stuff which we don't want to introduce into the engine. So I'm going to try and crush these in the centre with a pair of pliers and twist them out rather than cutting them up. But just before we do that, I'm going to clean up around these areas while the tubes are in, again, just to prevent stuff from getting inside the heads and stuff like that. So we'll cover these ports, these exhaust ports on the cylinder heads. We'll bung those up, and then we'll start to have a clean up around those tubes and then try and pull them out. Okay, so we've got this cleaned up pretty much as best as we can with the limited access we've got. So the next stage now is try and crush these tubes, which we're going to do with some more grips, and see if you can pull these out. Them are really soft actually, I thought they'd be stiffer than that. Well, that was a damn sight easier than I thought it was going to be. They're actually really, really thin, those, almost like tin. last one out. So that is all 4 of the tubes out. And you can see now where those tubes go. There is quite a little bit of gunk up here. So I'm going to plug the holes on these heads. And then I'm going to attack it up there with a little bit of degreaser. And just try and get this cleaned up a little bit better than what it is. Right, so I've got a couple of broken studs to deal with here. So I've got some M8 nuts just pressed onto those studs, and I'm going to try and tack weld those nuts onto the studs and try and extract them that way. If that doesn't work, we can probably try and drill the studs and get a stud extractor in and try and pull them out that way. And if that doesn't work, the only option then would be to completely drill the studs out and use a helicoil in there. So we've got our welder set up. I have got the battery disconnected on the car. We do have a fire extinguisher at the ready just in case, because you never know. So let's get these tacked on. Let's see if we can get these studs out. No, that's not going to work, guys. It looks like we're going to have to drill these and helicoil them. I think that's the only option we've got now. Okay, so there's not really much more we can do with those exhaust studs at the moment because my helicoil kit is at my other workshop, so I'll have to get that down here tomorrow. So let's have a look at this one tube that I've been sent. Let's get this one together and at least have a go at popping this one in, because the passenger side of the engine is where the studs are snapped. However, the driver's side of the engine, all the studs on that side are good. So there's nothing stopping us from putting this one tube in. At least we know how it goes in. And it'll give us a little bit of a heads up for when the next 3 arrive. And then obviously it should be plain sailing then, because we should know what we're doing. So let's bang this together, put these O-rings on. Let's slide the circlip up this tube. Let's see if we can get it on the car. So this is what you get in the kit. You get your 2 tubes, 2 large rubber O-rings and 2 smaller rubber O-rings and the circlip. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to slide the circlip up the tube. It's actually easier said than done. So that should be plenty. And these smaller ones actually go on the inside of this, so they should go on there like that. One on there and one on there. Got a little bit of rubber grease. We'll put a little bit of rubber grease on these to help this slide on. Just put a little bit on the inside of there as well, just to make it a little bit easier. Don't need to go mad with that, just a little smear. And this should slide over there like so. A little bit of a smear of grease just on the end. Then we have one large rubber O-ring on that end and a large rubber O-ring over that end. Same again. Bit of a smear of grease just to help it seat properly, slide in easier. And that's pretty much it. So we'll go and get this over to the car, and then what we're going to try and do is get a spanner behind that and pry this into the engine or the head with a spanner and a screwdriver or a pry bar. Basically, we've just got to expand that into the head and the engine. Now, from what I've seen online, guys, these actually go in with the thicker side into the head. So that's the way I'm going to do it. Now this is the tricky bit, trying to get these to expand. Right, so that's that one in. Right, so I've got that in place. Now what I'm going to try and do is use a spanner wedged in there, and then just pry that across. Try and extend these tubes in to where they need to be, a little bit at a time. It's quite difficult though. Okay, it's one side in. I think that should be it, guys. That seems like it's in. Bring the circle up across. Into there like that. And that is one collapsible oil tube fitted. So it currently looks like a bomb's gone off in the unit. It's amazing how many tools you'll use on what seems quite a simple job, but as you know, when you start getting seize bolts and stuck things and clips that won't come off, you end up with an absolute mass of tools out. So workshop tidy up in order. Now, we've got our floor mats over here. What we did last time, or the floor coverings, what we did on the last episode, clean these up. These have now dried, and they have come up far, far better than they was. But they are still quite tatty and ratty, so I think we will be trying to replace these and get some new ones. There's a horrible stain there on that one as well. Now these can't go back in for now, at least they smell nice, they're clean, and it will make the car a nicer place to be for the time being. Now if any of you guys do know where I can get a new set of floor coverings for this car, that would be very, very much appreciated. I've had a look around on eBay and stuff, and they seem to be about £1,000, and I can't actually find any in the correct colour. We are going to have a go at restoring these seats as well with some of the leather repair kits that you can get online. So I'm going to have a go at that and see if I can get those seats looking better than they are as well. Now next time, again, we do need to get those exhaust studs out. That is something we're going to be doing very, very soon. I will be getting the helicoil kit from my other workshop tomorrow and coming back down, hopefully getting those studs out. And I am pretty miffed really that we only got sent one of those oil tubes. I mean, we could have had this job done today pretty much, other than those couple of studs, but we could have at least had the tubes in. So a little bit gutted with that we only got sent one tube when we did order 4, but such is life, things do happen, mistakes will be made. So unfortunately, guys, that is going to be it for this episode. Please like, share and subscribe, drop us some comments, let us know your thoughts on this build so far. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all on the next video.